And welcome to the podcast, Dion Fischper. Dion, dude, how you been, man?
Mate, I'm always well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So what's happened since the last time I saw you? It's been like literally
Mate,
10 years.
The last time I saw you was probably in a club in Marquee,
Yeah.
and you were a couple of drinks deep. That was probably one of the last times I've seen you. Man, honestly, so much has been happening. From, driver coaching, getting back into karting, doing a bit of test driving for some people as well. Also music production and DJing. So that's my career now. That's where I'm at. So
I want to know a bit more like how you grew up, because we met in go-karts when we were kids.
Yeah.
So I want to know like how the 45 CRG came together.
Well, it all started. We had a very close family friends in the racing scene. They were karting, and we went along with them for a couple of race meets, and I was really young at the time. I probably would have been about 7. And I absolutely just loved it. I've always been car crazy and absolutely everything. Wouldn't get on a motorbike as a kid, but I was just hell bent on getting in a kart.
Yeah.
So eventually they had to come and have a go day at one of the tracks down in Canberra.
Yeah.
And jumped in, had so much fun. And then I was just convincing Dad, like, you need to buy me a kart, So happened that Christian Lindbaum, they were selling their first Arrow. I think he just won back when midgets used to be in the state titles. I don't know.
I think that's actually how we met, through Christian.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that now.
Yeah.
We ended up, he just won the state titles, and then he was moving up to, must have been rookies or J Light or something. So we jumped in, grabbed his chassis, and then just started. So, how it really kicked off was Dad was like, look, I want to make sure that you're good enough to race. So for a full year, he's like, we'll practice, we'll go to Canberra, we'll go to Wollongong, we'll go to Oran Park, a lot of the tracks that everyone was racing at, in New South Wales at least.
Yeah, there was heaps back then, eh?
Man, oh my God, it's depressing now thinking of what we used to have. But he was just saying, make sure you're good enough. And so his goal was, you're not racing until you beat the lap record at every track we go to. Yeah. So essentially, I was just hell bent on racing with my mates, because that was my scene at the time. Like one of my friends from school, Rodney Day, he was racing. Yeah. John Rossi as well. So that's so they were our closest family friends. So I just wanted to be racing so bad. So I'm like, all right, I have to get good. I have to set lap records on practice days, so I'm allowed to race. Yeah. And that's kind of just how it kind of all just kicked on, man. What else? It was just.
What did your dad do for work? Your parents?
So they owned a dry suit manufacturing company.
Yep.
So they used to do a lot of barefoot dry suits, a lot for the SES, Victoria Police, Customs. So heaps of commercial stuff as well. Yeah. And whenever Dad could get, when he didn't have a contract on, would go racing, man. So that was early on in the days.
Yeah.
And eventually when I was allowed to race, I proved to my dad that I was good enough. I was able to race. Had a couple funny stories, man. Like my first race ever on P plates. Yeah. No one had ever seen me, but I had been driving for a year. Yeah. And we had a bit of help, from friends and family who were in the scene already, with engines and whatnot. So
who was your engine builder?
Do you remember? I've had heaps.
Who was your first engine builder?
Bede Parkinson, Kiama.
Yeah,
so
right.
Jason Burns. Yeah. Used to be an apprentice, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. That's how he was my rookie Yamaha engine builder. Yep. Yeah. My first race ever. No one knew who I was. I had P plates on, and in the first heat, I had to obviously start last. I come through and won the heat and set the new lap record in the first heat of the race of the day. Yeah. And everyone was so angry. They had no idea who I was. They were like, they were convinced that we were cheating. They're like, who's this bogan kid from the South Coast? Like, what the hell is happening here? But
you've rattled the cage.
Yeah, definitely, man. And they were throwing up protests in the second heat at a club day. It was it was pretty funny. But it was just, I don't know. I just think back then and all the different personalities that I haven't seen for years. I got Marciano, people like that. I just haven't seen in years. And
they still have a crack these days, I think.
Really?
Some of them. I'm pretty sure some of them. Mitchell Scullion from Wollongong, he's still around.
Okay.
Not sure about Marciano.
Yeah, I actually was chatting to him on Facebook not that long ago, but didn't ask him about racing. But that was like early days, man. That was like, my first race meet. Kind of, getting into the industry and working out kind of what I wanted to do and what what Dad wanted to do. He was working out if I was good enough to, like, where can we take this? But my first race off P plates was actually the ACT state titles, which I won, which was awesome. And then the second race I did off P plates was New South Wales States. Put it on pole next to Robert Munnelly.
So those races you actually started from the back, didn't you? Because the P plate thing.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So my first race off Ps was the state titles. Which I won the ACT, and then when we went to the New South Wales Open, that was like Kyle Ensby, Ryan Reynolds, like, so, I mean, I'm forgetting heaps of them. I'm sure there's like way more.
The Reynolds family's still heavily into cars and karts.
Yeah, I was chatting to Ryan not that long ago. He's doing the
Aussie race cars.
Aussie race cars, yeah.
He's actually racing at Winton this weekend.
Mate, he put it into a wall as well at
did he?
At I think it was Bathurst. Yeah, Ryan. Yeah, mate. Yeah. But they got their car together and I think they ended up going pretty well. So
yeah, all right.
Yeah, man. Like, it's just
So was it the Arrow first, then a CRG?
So Arrow first, yep. And then that was our first year of rookies, because I didn't do midgets. I just went straight into rookies.
Yeah, okay.
So
and you used Christian's old kart for
Christian's old chassis, yep. And then we had John Rossi's J engine as an only rookie engine. So we did that for the full year. And then at the end of the year, the end of my first year of racing, there was cracks all through the chassis and literally cable ties were holding the chassis together. Yeah. Cable ties holding the side pods on and, people looking at us going like, what the hell? Like, how are you putting this on the front row at, States and then that? And then Dad went and had a bit of a chat to CRG, St George Kart Centre. And Chris Dell, that's right. Kenny Schroeder as well, yeah. So had a bit of a chat, and I think they kind of said, if you guys do well, we'll look after you a bit. So we bought our first CRG rookie chassis, and it was actually a surprise to me. I didn't know. Like, I remember I see me coming home from school one time, and the chassis was in the back of the car. So that was like my massive present, my Christmas present. And then that's kind of where CRG started. That chassis, if you remember, man, back in the day, there was no CRG rookie karts. Yeah. So they had no test drivers as such. So
they only had Jason Heinrich, really. That was like the one with the flag bearer.
That's exactly right. So they were doing really well overseas, but they had no one in Australia really going well, especially in junior categories. So they were like, all right, if you guys go well and help us develop something, there might be more opportunity down the road for you. So we got this chassis, and I don't know how to say this. When we first got it, it was horrible. You couldn't come into a corner, no matter how you took this corner, no matter how you entered the corner, it just did not want to cooperate in any way.
Yeah, it was just push.
Man, it was so designed for like European Vegas, but then we're racing on Dunlop SL1s, but wood, So this thing just had no grip, nothing. You couldn't. I drive with a lot of front end. Yeah. So, and this thing had zero front end. Yeah. So Dad, we call it the chassis tuner. Dad pulls out a grinder and starts literally chopping things at the race meet. Yeah. Because we had the lap record, I think it was at Oran Park. We had the lap record in the Arrow that was beaten up. Yeah. Now we've got this brand new kit, fully like looking good, looking schmick. And, we're running. Shiny. We can run at 8, 9 tenths off our normal speed in this old beat up Arrow. So Dad literally pulls out a grinder at the race meet and starts chopping things off the chassis.
And trying to design the Arrow within the CRG pretty much.
He's like, well, he's very smart, like in an engineering wise. He just works it out and he's like, well, why? So he worked out, he made some changes to the front end of the kart. He used to have a solid front end crossbar. He ended up cutting it. And it kind of just allowed the kart just to flex a bit more. And it was the next heat. We were, in line with our Arrow times, and then we kind of just built it from there. So, that's when I was 13.
Who'd you look up to in karts back then? Was Limbom one, or was there more?
Definitely Christian, Jason Heinrich as well. They were my two go-to guys, just because especially Jason was, he was part of the CRG team. And at the time even though we were driving for CRG, we weren't, that's when, there was no nationals for rookies or anything. So all the big race meets, and it was actually split state titles. So senior state titles and junior state titles were different. So
yeah, I remember that.
I never got to see Jason or like the guys that I looked up to at major race meets. So even though we're part of CRG, it didn't feel like we were part of CRG until I kind of moved into like junior clubman, the junior clubman era when I was about 15 or 16, and we were traveling more to do like a lot of your nationals and that. That's when we started pitting with them, in the big marquees and everything, and we're assisting the team, and that's when it kind of got a lot more serious for it, a lot more money as well.
Yeah.
But a lot more serious.
But was there anyone in the junior ranks that you like idolized to beat in a way? So for me, I said Lindbaum, and then there was Josh Scott, who's been mentioned a lot.
Josh Scott as well, yeah, man. Like
I'm trying to get in contact for him to come on too.
Yeah, I'll give him a message.
So everyone's life's changed since we've seen each other.
I remember him working in my sister actually. Yeah, so I've been messaging about that.
Yeah.
Man, I remember racing against him as well, Newcastle in J Light, and it was Ryan Reynolds, David Stevenson.
Oh, he was a gun too.
Yeah, Josh Scott and me. We were Jack Rowley as well.
Yeah, Jack. Yep.
So we were pretty much all, there for the win in the final. And I remember first corner, Josh Scott coming, what do you want to say, anti-clockwise Newcastle track.
Yeah.
Coming up the hill for first corner, he's hit the inside of the ripple strip.
Yeah.
Landed on top of, must have been Ryan, I think.
Yeah.
And it just like chaos from there.
Absolute
chaos. Yeah.
Restart the whole field.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But no, I haven't seen Josh in ages. Haven't spoken to him probably in 10 years. But
yeah, I think from memory, because I've been keeping in contact with him to try and come on the show, I think he's trying to work in the mills or something up in like Newcastle way. And he's just a family man now. He gave it a crack like you though. Like he got to Europe and did a bit of open wheel race, and then came back and realised, that's the end of the dream.
Man, it's hard. Like the amount of offers we had from kind of, let's say, junior clubman when I was about 16 in my last year of junior clubman, and then into my first 2 years of like tag light, leopard light, all that kind of that's when we were racing clubman light as well. Had so many offers, but it all come with a price tag. It was, come to Japan and race for us in F2 or sorry, F3. But bring 75 grand to the test day. Yeah. And even if you set that record, you're not guaranteed a position in that team. So, there was a lot of things happening at the time, even with Steele Giuliana as well. They sacrificed a lot. He's someone who, he should be like, he should be racing Formula 1. Yeah. He should be. I think I should be too. There's a lot of people that they sacrificed more than what my family did. He's someone that deserved it, and that was their everything. So we kind of looked at that and gone, oh man, like, Steele's very good as well. That was that passion, that was their everything. And why didn't it work out for them? So Mum and Dad didn't want to sell their house. They didn't want to sell their business to try and get me a drive over in Europe and the States. So, which, I understand now. At the time, I was like, just do it. Just make more money,
Right, we'll go fast and go anywhere.
That's right.
Yeah. So how for you, or like obviously I wanted to bring you in here to talk more about your music career. Between when you were like racing karts and getting to DJing and stuff like that, and when we were like in the party scene, how did that like merge together and to try and hold both ends of the scale?
Oh, mate, it was tricky because there was a lot of things that, my dad being part German, Gestapo, mate, like it was, you take this seriously. Yeah. And also he knew that I was DJing as well. But there were so many weekends where, there'd be a Premier State Cup or something that was on in Sydney or even down Wakefield, Newcastle. And I'd get amazing opportunities like, come play for this club for a couple grand. And it's like, it's kind of like racing, mate. If you turn down a club, that's kind of, you're kissing it goodbye. They're kind of like, you don't want to take this opportunity. We'll find someone who will. Yeah. And so there were so many times when this one stands out. It was at Eastern Creek Premier State Cup. And I would have been
and that's when 16. It was very, very competitive too. That's right. During those car days.
So like Scotty McLaughlin, Chaz Mostert, like all them boys. Yeah. So this weekend, I remember we were fresh with a brand new chassis from CRG. It was a new one that come in from Italy. and it felt better straight away than the old one. So it out of the box, it was quick, which was good, and then we were improving on it over the weekend. So our first time in the chassis was literally carby session or whatever it was, or the practice day before. And then carby session, it was like axle out, new axle in, let's give it a crack. Qualified average, like inside the top 10, but I was still, you know, man, if I'm not winning and lapping everyone, I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
So
40 kart fields back then.
That's right. So I remember, you know, it was, like Steele was racing in our class. James Kovacic, like.
Yeah, James was another one. He was quick.
Yeah. Number 13.
Matt Waters.
No. Yes, Matt Waters, but in this class it was. I'll think of it in a minute. Yeah. But then there's a lot of like Tyler Greenbury. Tyler. He was number 6 at the time, or 66.
He was 6. He was either 6 or 66.
That's right. Yeah. There was heaps, man. Like so many people at this one race meet, and I remember getting the Saturday, so it was qualifying and 3 heats.
Yeah.
And I just finished heat 2, and I got a message from this club, and they're like, "Hey, Candy's apartments tonight in King's Cross." And I'm looking at my message. I'm looking at my dad, going like, "How do I pull this one off?"
Yeah.
So, whilst you know the first day of racing finished, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to go back to my partner's house and sleep there that night. Blah blah blah. I'll speak here in the morning." And Dad's like, "Make sure you're here in the morning, like this time. You know, don't be late. You know." I make my dad sound really serious. He's actually really chilled, but for racing, he was serious. You know. Yeah. So I was like, "Yep, no worries, all good." So I left that night, went to Candy's apartments. I think DJ'd from 2 to 4 in the morning.
Really?
Yeah. Came back. I literally drove straight from the cross. My friend drove straight from the cross.
Yeah. To the track. Yeah.
And I think Mum knew because my sister told my mum, I'm pretty sure. And just like feeling seedy as hell. I don't drink, don't do anything, but again, just being up late and everything before a race,
using all your exhaustion and all that energy.
Yeah, but you're also pumped as well because it was an amazing show. Yeah. So I remember again morning carby session, just like giving it a bit of a shake, like all right, I can do this. Yeah. Have a Red Bull, we're good to go. But that day ended up being really good. We kind of worked out the kart through the day. We ended up finishing second to Ryan Deckett in the final, which was, I think I started 4th or 5th. And, that was beating, Scotty McLaughlin, Chaz Moster, like there was major names in there.
Do you keep in contact with Ryan Deckett at all? Because I know his younger brother works in motocross with the media stuff. That's right, Geordie. Yeah. Man, that's pretty intense.
We don't chat often, but if I see his birthday or something, and we'll message each other, and then it's a bit of a catch up, and then we don't speak for a long period of time. Everyone everyone still remains friendly, but everyone's growing up and everyone has their own issues, their own importance in their life. So it's hard to keep in touch with everyone. Yeah. They were probably my favorite days of karting, junior clubman, age 16, probably that's 2007.
Yeah, 2006, 2007.
Yeah. So
and then it's changed massively since then.
It has, man. Yeah. So we actually entered back into karting a couple of years ago. A lot of people don't know, but we took on the Mach 1 franchise for Australia.
Yeah, okay.
So Mum and Dad, they parted, they separated, sold the business, sold the house. Yeah. Dad was wanting to do something. He's like, all right, what do I want to do? He's always he loves motorsport, always wanted to get back into karting because we had a big break from it. So he's like, you know what, let's go for, let's try and take on a franchise. So
again, become a dealership.
That's right. Yeah. Again, being German, Mach 1 is German. So he's like, it's a sign, we've got to take it on. So
he was so serious though at the track about your racing though.
Hey, he's a bigger kid than I am. He's
him and Kyle Lindbaum were good mates because they're very European.
That's right.
And serious.
Yes, definitely. But no, he was just, let's take this on, let's do it. So when we got a whole bunch of chassis in, we were like, all right, let's test them. Mach 1 at the time in the States and in Europe they were going really well with like KZ2.
Yeah.
But everything else, they were suffering really bad. So again, we took on, let's try and develop the chassis for Mach 1. We got the is it KA3?
KF3, yeah. I think
K in Australia, KA3.
Oh, KA3, that's right. Yeah, they've got
it's
all
like
these
the 100.
weird names. Yeah.
It's the 100cc, you know, replacement of the Yamaha.
Yeah.
You know, the Clubman engine.
Yeah.
So we got the KA 100 engine, whatever it is, I can't remember. Put that on a cart. We got a Leopard, and we're testing them both. We ended up getting the KA chassis, like cracking. It was awesome. We did really well in the state series.
Where were you testing it at? Wollongong or?
Wollongong, yeah.
Okay.
It's Wollongong and Picton.
Yeah, right. I love Picton.
Man,
it's a good little track.
It was the first time I had ever been to Picton.
Yeah.
When we started testing the Mach 1. So
yeah,
it was closer for me because I was living in Sydney. Dad's still down the coast. I was like, go to Picton. He's like, no, Wollongong. I'm like, no, Picton. It's closer for me. So we're kind of alternating, you know, Picton, Wollongong. I found that the Wollongong track had degraded a lot. It was breaking up a lot.
Troy Baldy still looks after that place.
Does he really?
Yeah. So he's bought the track and he uses it as a hire kart track and like a type of club scenario for go-kart. Just guys want to get into karts. Yeah. He just uses that as like a basic setup. But yeah, as you're saying, that track's breaking up because he's owned it.
Well, I don't know if it was him, but a lot of like drift cars there and stuff. Like,
does he?
Man, like,
I didn't know
I'd
that.
I'd show up for testing. You know, like we'd bring, you know, 3 chassis there for testing and brand new tires, everything. And there's big chunks of rubber, like half a tire on the track, turn 1, a quarter of a tread on, you know, turn 3. I'm like, okay, like get the broom out, start sweeping. Yeah. And I actually remember sweeping the track and the actual surface was breaking up under the broom.
Holy shit.
When Dad was like, it's not fast enough, you know, me and Dad have always been like, what's lap record? That's what we go off. You know, that's the measure, you know, not how fast is everyone else. We were like, well, it's possible to go this quick. How do we go quicker? So when we weren't matching really quick times around that track, I was the one going, I honestly think it's the track breaking away, but Dad's like, no, like it's possible. Yeah. If you change the setup, it's possible, you know? Like,
so you're working a kart to a degrading track in a way.
That's correct. That's
right. Yeah, right.
So Dad's always like, well, like, you know, why can't you go quicker? And I'm like, oh, because it's, you know, a bit loose, or, you know, it might be stepping out a tiny bit, or it's a bit understeery, whatever. And he's like, well, if we get that out, it'll be possible. And I'm like, we were like arguing about that. I'm like, it's not possible.
You're trying to hint to him that the track's shit, but you don't want to break his heart.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
So, but he's like, no, we just need to go quicker. We just need to get the kart sorted. So, look, we ended up getting the KA chassis sorted really well. Didn't put enough energy into the tag chassis. But our last race meet in that was the New South Wales Open States for tag.
Was this 2013-14 really?
No, this was after 16.
Okay.
16, I think.
So this is after
Pierce Lehane.
Okay.
Well after that, man.
Yeah.
Pierce Lehane ended up winning it. But man, the top 4 engines were all is it the Galaxy? The one, the energy, the engine that CRG
sells.
Yeah, they made, so they produced. So like, I think they were making 34 to 36 horsepower.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and there was no sub-regs, or there was no rules on what they should actually be, on what the engines should actually be. Like, you know, when you open up the rule book of a Leopard or a Rotax or something.
It sounds like typical motorsport though.
They got specific regulations you have to follow to use that engine. There was no... there's no rules on the Galaxy engine, so
they
could do whatever,
wide open, do whatever
they wanted, man. Like, you come onto a straight and they'd pull like 8 carts on you just out of a corner. It was just ridiculous. So if you didn't have one of those, you know, you were
you were
struggling.
The straight and you see, and you're like, oh my god, what the fuck?
That's right. Well, in the final, we end up Pierce Lehane he won.
Yeah.
He ended up setting the quickest lap. Mind you, he was 6/10 faster than everyone else the whole meet.
Yeah.
In the final,
he's raced in Europe and whatnot.
That's right. We ended up matching him in the final to the 100th. So we were 100th off, and then we ended up brake failure. yeah, like we just had a shocker, man. Absolute shocker.
Is that just due to because you're only really running the kart to the budget to like test it in a way, like, or just like it's a new kart, you don't know what's going to fail on it?
Look, it was teething issues. So there were so many things, like, you know, we had been out of karting for, you know, 6 or 7 years, and we were like, just me and Dad, no help other than that. Like, just me and Dad. Let's run 2 karts. Let's do everything, you know, like, man, we missed qualifying at one of the New South Wales state rounds because we were just, you know, teething issues. So like we pitted up the back somewhere, and I was like watching the track, and I'm like, I know that kart. And hey, I think we're on the track to like literally miss qualifying. Yeah. Just little things.
I've done that before. It's so bad. Like you're in your own little la la land.
Yeah. There's actually the debut that we were racing Mach 1. So it was like, shocker, you know, like this is off to a perfect start.
It's always fun, though, going through the packs in a go-kart, though.
Yeah.
Like you just get that
adrenaline. That was an orange as well. Yeah. And driving a tag kart down the hill, that was a lot of fun. Chaos on your ribs, but it was full on.
Yeah. How do you find, like, as we'll go from like your karting days and then the music? So when did you start your first year? I think your first branding was Mojo Man, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did Mojo Man for a while. That was just like, you know, party DJ, you know, like whatever, house parties, R&B, raves, festivals, whatever. I just did absolutely everything. Just trying to make a name for myself. But then it kind of got to the point where you're DJing too much.
Okay.
So, you know, if you're DJing 4 or 5 nights a week, and then you start kind of thinking, all right, well, I'm worth more. How do I go back to that same club that I played last week and ask for, you know, more money? They'll be like, oh, you just played for X amount this last week. Why are you asking for double the amount this week? So I took a step back from Mojo Man, that brand, and, you know, focus on music production. Like, how can I make my new brand worth more? Yeah. So that's when I started MoveMint, right before COVID. Perfect time, you know, to start a new DJ brand. Yeah. So I started MoveMint, doing a lot of ghost production for a lot of major artists as well. So writing music for them.
You're good mates with Bombs Away, aren't you?
Yes.
He's not one of them, or isn't one of them now retired and like full into bikes and cars and whatnot?
So
I've seen Spits
Sketch,
and Sketch.
Okay. So Sketch,
I hope you listen to him. I'm a huge fan of him just because he's...
Look, honestly, the first time I met them was playing down the Marlin, South Coast. Yeah. One of the roughest pubs in Australia, I think. And they were so party boys, like, you know, let's do this, let's go shots, you know, absolutely crazy.
They were like the LMFAO of like Australian DJing in a way.
I'm quote me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure they caught a helicopter to the gig. Like, they were just the shit, you know. Yeah. Their artist rider was like, you know, fresh pair of socks when they arrived to the venue, like 10 bottles of vodka, like anything they wanted, they'd make it happen. But they're rock stars, you know, they could make that happen. Yeah. So the first time I met them was that event, and last year actually I did an event for Bombs Away. Yeah. And
it's only one of them now, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. So Sketch, he is Tommy is now Bombs Away by himself. Sketch, the other part of Bombs Away, he now looks after the business side of things.
Yeah, okay. So he's still involved.
He's still involved, yeah.
Okay.
So Tommy will do DJing, music production, and Sketch now will do a lot of the business side. He's heavily into like videography as well, like drones and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
So he does a lot of... I'm not sure if people should know this or not. You know what?
Anyway.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I'm going to tell it. I think he filmed a lot of super cheap auto ads and stuff.
Yeah, like okay.
So he's very, very clever with a drone, very good with the video camera. So
yeah, right. And so what happens with Tommy though? Does he invite you onto? How does it work? So because you're a producer and whatnot, do you come on stage and help them out in the background, or do you help them out on stage and then go back to do your own set?
You can do it however you want, man. Like, honestly, like if we get booked for the same shows, generally, you know, you'll keep your own set times and whatnot. But because we're such good friends, you know, like I'll go up on stage with him, get the crowd pumped. Like, you know, the last events we did, it was pretty much 20 artists all on the stage at the same time, even though we all had individual set times. It was just a massive party stage. Yeah. So it's good that a lot of the industry is like that. You know, we're willing to help each other and support each other. There's also, same as motor racing, man, there's the ugly side where, you know, people are just despising you and, you know, wanting you to fail. Like, there's a lot of that. But
have you had that though? Because you literally like work from like like 8 a.m. till like midnight on your music.
Yeah,
I had to literally claw you away to come
here.
You
actually did, yeah. Like, man, my eyes are bloodshot right now.
Yeah.
Because, there's no such thing as a sleeping pattern for me.
Yeah.
It's just trying to find a routine is really hard. I guess just sometimes you'll be motivated to write music, sometimes you won't. I get a lot of people asking me it's called ghost production. Essentially, major artists will need music.
Yeah, okay.
I will produce it. They will buy it off me and they will release it as their own.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of artists out there that do ghost production. And since
is that because their managers contact you for like because their brand needs to keep pumping out music?
That's exactly right. Okay. So there'll be either like honestly, I've contacted a lot of people saying, "Hey, I can write music for you guys, so you can focus on other parts of your brand, other parts of what you want to do. I can perform more. I'll be back house production." So ever since I left full-time work last year, that's been a lot of my source of income has been music production or ghost producing. Again, through COVID, there's no such thing as live shows, or hasn't been. So that was my source of income, was literally writing music, producing music for other DJs and international artists.
Did you miss over COVID? I remember seeing you on social media. You literally had to go to Queensland and go through all this COVID bullshit, and now life's back to normal.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you got to tell me about that story.
So actually, that whole situation was ran by Bombers Way.
Yeah, okay.
So that was for Schoolies 2021. They run pretty much the Schoolies Music Festival, or the Schoolies Beach Festival, and then when all the events up there during Schoolies. Did you ever go to Schoolies, Gold Coast?
No, I never finished school.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just straight to TAFE in year 10.
Just straight into motor racing, mate.
Straight to motor racing.
You don't need your HSC for racing, mate.
Did a racing and that was it. Yeah, but go on about Schoolies.
They, Schoolies, essentially, there's a lot of clubs on the Gold Coast, and during Schoolies week or 2 weeks, it's all the artists from Australia, even internationally, they'll come over, and it's just a massive party for the artists as well. So it's a great opportunity for networking, because you're seeing artists that from the other side of Australia that you never get to see, or the other side of the world that you never get to see. They're all there, all for beach festival, different club gigs, and for 2 weeks, it's just partying and networking.
Yeah.
So I got asked by Sketch, the guy from I'm part of Bombers Way.
Yeah.
Hey mate, we'd love to have you up on the beach festival for Schoolies.
Yeah.
If you can make it up here.
Yeah.
So this is during COVID, during when New South Wales was closed off to Queensland.
Yeah.
So I looked at...
We're in that heavy lockdown.
Heavy lockdown.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at going, all right, well, how do I get into Queensland? So I had to have, your Queensland border pass, double vaxxed, all that stuff. You had to apply for a working pass. I actually got declined twice.
Yeah,
so I didn't actually tell Sketch this. I told him, everything's fine. I'll see you on this date. I'll be there. I'll be on the stage. I'm making this happen.
Yeah.
So he said, from, as far as he knew, everything was sweet. I actually got declined twice.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a whinge. I was like, this is ridiculous. My first job, I essentially got cut back. I was working on the tugboats in Sydney, bringing in all the cruise ships. You probably didn't know about that.
No, I didn't know about that. So we can talk about this after this.
Yeah. So that was my main source of income. I got, put back a lot of OT because of COVID, no cruise ships into the harbour.
Yeah.
So I was really annoyed.
Everything's literally suffering at this point.
Yeah. So I was really upset that, I was like, now this is my only source of income now. I'm trying to get to Queensland to work and perform, and I can't. So I called the Gold Coast Mayor. I told him my situation. I called the Queensland Premier.
Yeah.
I have a bit of chat to her. And essentially they made an exemption of me to come into the state. So
as an entertainer,
that's correct. That's right. So I had to prove that, I'm different from other entertainers. I'm not just a standard DJ, standard music producer. I'm different.
So you would have to show technically your ghost records to get through.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff.
Yeah, right.
So
this is so cool because I don't know much about the music industry.
It's similar to racing. It's very clicky,
Yeah.
So eventually, that's right.
Yeah.
So I, got my passes, got sorted, got everything all good to go. Had to do, the only way I could get in was doing 2 weeks quarantine, hotel quarantine. and they were running schoolies for 1 week because there's no New South Wales week because the borders are closed. So they're only doing the Queensland week. So 2 weeks in quarantine. I took my DJ decks with me in quarantine just to keep myself from going absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Did a lot of music production in quarantine as well. I remember the first day, the morning I was due to come out of quarantine. I think I was right to come out at, it must have been 6 a.m. At 2 a.m. I get a call on the hotel phone, and it's a copper from downstairs. He's like, "Hey mate, just making sure you're good to go." And I'm like, "It's 2 a.m. Why are you calling me? I've got another 4 hours of sleep." He's like, "Yeah, all good. Like, we'll come get you soon." I'm like, "Oh mate." So this is me trying to get prepared for a massive week. I had 16 different shows in 7 days or 6 days. Yeah. So I had a couple shows a day, just trying to jam pack them all in whilst I was up there. So got out, checked into my hotel, did the whole schoolies week. It was absolutely crazy. Yeah. Bombs Away ran that. They did a really good job of running the festival and then linking up with all the clubs, and a lot of fun.
Is there any wild shit that goes on backstage with that type of like DJ stuff?
There is always.
You don't have to mention names, but you can mention like shit that you've seen.
Well, man, I remember when I was 16 and, probably even that Candies nut that I said that I ditched Eastern Creek for, I was always around drugs and heavy drinking and like some major artists, like international artists. You're backstage and they're, got all the stuff in the world there. And to me, I was like, well, I've got something to lose. Like I can't do this because, first of all, I've got racing in the morning. Yeah. But also, like my family is very close as well. So I was always like, I'll watch them do it. Yeah. See how they go. Yeah. So I was always like a bystander of it, like heavily involved in it, but never did anything.
Yeah. So you're like a fly on the wall at this point.
100%.
Remember when we were at Marquee, the reason I'm asking this is we had like Little John there at the time. Remember he turned up, LMFAO turned up.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
And see, like I was always the one like looking after the people, but you were more the DJ type of promoter.
Yes.
So you would have witnessed what was going on backstage.
Man, like honestly, like they were pretty well behaved in Marquee. When they left Marquee, that's when
shit went south.
Yeah. Yeah. and being in a casino, like it was pretty tame compared to other clubs. Like, any club in the Cross, it was like, the people would just be walking around with bags of Coke in their hand or like just pouring it on the table. Like people are so messed up, they don't care. Yeah. Actually got a really funny story. I was actually having a Sydney show. This is a couple of years ago. Yeah. Massive show. So much fun. Absolutely going off. And I just feel this energy from the front row. And I'm like, whoever's in the front row, they're vibing hard. And it was the type of club where there's like a glass window right at the front of the decks. Yeah. So I'm looking down at the decks and I'm feeling like this, like smacking against this glass window, like drinks coming over the decks. I'm like, who are these crazy guys? Look up and there's, Darcy Konoparakis, Max Johnson, really? Blake Skiveris as well. And I'm like, oh, no way. Like, it was hilarious to see. Like, it's so good when you're playing a show and you see guys, that you've raced with or from the racing scene. Yeah. That was good fun.
Darcy's a bit of a nomad. He was traveling the world during COVID and before all that. Yeah. Did you know that?
He actually messaged me this morning, man.
Did he?
Yeah.
Sick.
He's is he back? I don't know where, but
I never know where he is. I message him every now and there too.
Last time I saw him in person was at Eastern Creek. I think that's when Kyle Ensby and they were doing the Aussie race car series. That was probably last year or the year before.
Well, did he turn up to the track, did he?
Yeah, he was just watching.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. I was at the Supercars round.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, that was interesting. So when I did the Supercars round, I like you, similar to the Queensland thing, but this is for the track. I had to be vaccinated and whatnot, and then I had to have the COVID test, but from the hospital, and you have to sit there for 2 days. Yep. Anyway, long story short, Supercars just was letting anyone and everyone in, and so me and my girlfriend and my team had wasted all this time doing the whole protocols, and they just let anyone in anyway to sell tickets.
Man, it's frustrating because as like similar thing to what you were just going through, the week after I did the 2 weeks quarantine to go to get into Queensland, the following week the borders had opened and you didn't have to do quarantine. You just had to apply for a border pass. And so essentially I did 2 weeks quarantine. If I arrived there 2 or 3 days later, I could have just come straight into the state. but I had shows on, you know, it wouldn't have worked, wouldn't have lined up. So I had to essentially do 2 weeks quarantine in a freaking room.
Yeah, for no reason.
For just no reason.
Yeah. Blake's running a pretty good excavation business.
Is he?
Yeah.
Mate, I thought he'd just be.
You don't have to worry too much about your notes. It's all good.
Okay. Well, I was going to say.
I know you're very like that because of your music.
No, I deleted. You know what I was actually going to chat about.
It's all good. We'll go with the conversation. But Blake's running an excavation business and whatnot, and I think Darcy's just been a nomad, and the boys are just doing whatever. It's so weird though. We were talking about off air yesterday on the phone.
Yep.
How it's so interesting. Like as yourself, you said it costs so much money to get to a certain part in motorsport.
Yeah.
How most of them have gotten onto somewhere, but you've got guys who are like you who are partying with, who had all the talent in the world, but couldn't get anywhere to a budget.
That's right.
That's kind of why I brought you on, because you've done something different, but you were still an amazing racer.
It's it's hard. I still have so many people be like, oh, you even yourself, you're like, you had passion for motorsport, but now you've got a new passion for music. I still probably have more passion for racing, but it's not possible for me. Unless someone out there wants to give me a whole bunch of money to race or fund me, then awesome. But how many other drivers are in that situation? Yeah. So it's hard, like I get depressed sometimes watching Formula One because I'm like, I watch first of all half the onboard cameras. I'm like, oh, why are you braking there? Why are you turning there? Yeah. Like feeling the throttle, like, I'm like, you're hopeless,
The pay driver's fucking up all the time.
Like it stresses me out. So I'd rather watch Drive to Survive than watch an actual Formula One meet, like a race, because I get stressed out.
Yeah. How'd you get into, like, obviously you said to me off air about your driver training. How did that all come about?
There was just a lot of people who realized, I've always been there. But why didn't I progress further? Because when I was racing, like when I was actually probably going the best, was driving for CRG, they were giving me engines that I was racing tag light, 22 to 23 horsepower on the dyno, and I'm racing against X30s with 30 horsepower and Rotax when they had the 31 or 32 horsepower. So we were still winning. A lot of people would get the engine that we were using, the Fireball at the time. Yeah. And they were a second off the pace. So I got a lot of recognition for that, for kind of making that product look good. And a lot of people remembered that. So when people would change categories for either karting, sometimes Formula 3 as well. I've done stuff for World Time Attack as well. If they wanted, maybe a bit of insight of a bit more driver coaching of, just sometimes, like yourself, you can definitely pass down your experience to younger generation of what they were kind of just keen for a bit more help. So I love to, that motorsport being my passion as well. I love being at the track. I love helping people out get a bit quicker, So if I can't be in the seat, I'd still rather be, helping out some way.
Yeah, you're pretty passionate. Was it a Toyota Supra that you've got?
Oh my God.
Yeah, there we go.
Right, here we go. Like, this interview is going to turn into 4 hours.
That's perfect.
So yeah,
got a bit of time.
I bought that car because we were stepping out of karting.
Yeah.
And I had no release. Motorsport has been like, me for so many years. I was like, I need a Supra. Like, I want to build this thing, and that's going to keep me going, give me some reason to live.
Was that from the Fast and Furious movie? Is that what got you into buying that car?
I think I liked the Supra before that. But then I almost bought a 34 GTR instead of that Supra.
Yeah, right.
I test drove them both. And then at the time, one of my best mates had a 34. I was like, you know what? I'll get the Supra. Had that for years. Built it up to, I think it was just shy of 1,300 wheel horsepower. And so like when I ended up selling it, I sold it.
Oh, you sold it?
Bro, I sold it because...
letting your baby go.
I sold it because I blew the bottom end in it.
Yeah.
And I was, moving out of a house. And I was like, you know what? What's the responsible thing to do? And someone was offering a lot of money for it. So I was like, sold it with a blown bottom end. Yeah. A race team actually picked it up in Queensland. They were going to turn it into like their drag/circuit car. Yeah. And /street car that they were still going to drive. But the guy who bought it almost killed himself driving to work in it. He was like, it's just too nuts. Like,
wow.
It was stupid, man.
So essentially it could be a World Time Attack car.
It could have been. Like, I had it set up for a bit of everything. Like, it would handle really well, but I think that 100 to 200 time, like 100K to 200Ks, was like 3.1 seconds. Like, it was stupid. So, you know, like a lot of people who, I guess, drove that car, they were like, it's just too stupid for the street. So, it kind of got passed through a few hands. I actually chatted to the guy who has it now.
Is he from Sydney or is he from another state?
He's from Sydney. Unfortunately, the guy who actually bought it, he died from brain cancer.
Wow.
Yeah, so the car got passed on to his brother-in-law, and they're keeping it as a memorabilia thing for him. So I completely understand, but I'm like, that's my car. I had that for 9 years. You know, I built that how it is. Yeah, I want it back. So.
Are you trying to buy it back now?
Mate, he wants over 200 grand for it.
Holy shit. That's how much work you've put into that car, essentially.
Look, I put in the last year of owning that. Look, my nan and my parents are probably going to be listening to this.
Yeah. You got to talk a bit about your nan, because she's very encouraging on Facebook.
She is extremely encouraging on Facebook.
She's your number one supporter.
Definitely. She's actually got, so at her house down the south coast, she's got, let's say if you went to my nan's place, you would assume that I'm dead. Because there's a massive shrine on the wall of like my photos and everything. Like pretty much all my motorsport trophies are there. Like,
is this your mum or your dad's side?
Mum's mum.
Mum's mum. Okay.
Yeah, mum's mum. So yeah, like it's a shrine, mate. It's freaky. I like it, and I like teasing my sister about it because my sister's got like one little thing there. I've got like 200 something trophies on there, and I'm like, hey, I'm better than you. Nan loves me more. No, but it's just like Nan's seriously my biggest supporter, even through music as well. Yeah, like Nan would make my pop drive to South Australia or Victoria just to come watch me race.
Really?
You know, like,
wow.
Yeah, like. She loves it. Even to this day, she's like, oh, you know, if only you were still racing, and because you know she can't attend a club. Well, she can, but
she can, but she's very old.
You know, that's right. So,
old. She wouldn't say she's old, but I'd say that the people there would.
That's right. Yeah. You know, so it's you know socially unacceptable. So,
has she ever told you about, because you're like a DJ now, what it was like back in her day? Does she ever go into those tangents?
She does, but it's always like, you know, they did like a lot of dances and stuff back in the day. So, actually, a pretty funny story. Yeah, one of my first DJ shows was down the south coast, and Nan being very protective of me, I was walking in to go to the show, and I remember like looking in the car park. And there was only one car in the car park. So this car park's full of people, like kids, piling into this venue. One car in the car park, it's my pop's car, and my nan sitting there with binoculars looking like, trying to suss me out to make sure I'm all right. Just watching me into this venue, I'm like, oh my God, like, overprotective nan. Over supportive nan.
Yeah, I want to talk about a bit about King's Cross, because King's Cross is now dead, and that was a massive party scene, as you said. Like, you went from a go-kart race to the King's Cross. Do you remember much of King's Cross, and can you talk about like your experience with it?
So I remember my first time in King's Cross. It was Avicii was playing, Calvin Harris was playing, Swedish House Mafia were there as well, all on the same night. Yeah. So this is like, you know, you'd walk at, you know, be under the Coke sign, and you'd look down the street. There was thousands of people in the street partying, but not once did I feel ever unsafe. Yeah. You know, like, because there was always security on the street, everything. It was just a massive, it was the happiest party scene that I had ever been to, and still to this day, I've never seen a happier party environment. Yeah.
But it was just like the heart of the city at the time, wasn't it?
It was like, and it's good. It's actually coming back, to be honest. There's a lot of new venues that have just actually had their opening parties the weekend that has just gone.
In King's Cross.
Oh,
so they're reopening that.
You know, so Candy's closed.
Yep.
Now it's been closed for a while. Now there's Marley Bar there, and Marley Bar now is actually a very prestigious house venue. So they just opened up last week. Now they're getting some major artists coming through, so I'm actually going to try and get a booking there as well. You should come down.
I'll try and come down for sure. I haven't freaking done any clubbing since I left with you.
It's when you do it again. Like, I hate going out, you know, just to drink. I don't like that. You know, I like going out and meeting different artists, different people. Yeah. And kind of not being in the hustle and bustle of the dance floor, but the business side of things and like the business side of being an artist as well. So I go out a couple times a week. You know, tonight will be a Thursday for me. I'll go out tonight for Ivy Thursdays and chat to Justin Hems, chat to a lot of these people who are got a lot of money, a lot of business experience, and trying to imply that into my own business. So just chat to successful people in the industry. It's just all networking.
Have you seen many of the marquee guys around? We're talking off air.
Yes. So I saw Nathaniel at Ivy 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and hopefully we get to catch up soon. Got his number.
Yeah.
But it's really good, like to see him still out, still having fun.
Yeah.
And then Josh as well.
Yeah.
He used to work for Marquee. Yeah. He was working at Ivy, so he's working for Ivy now, looking after all the VIPs.
So essentially, all of them have moved to Ivy in a way.
Yes.
Is Marquee still existing? Or
still existing, and during COVID, they were thinking about shutting down completely because they put in a high rollers suite above Marquee. Apparently when they were playing, all the chips were rattling on the table.
Really?
So they had to like change the way that the venue was, change upstairs. I don't know if they got rid of it or not. But Marquee is still, it's not as, remember how it used to be really exclusive?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as exclusive anymore. It's more like, it's much more, everyone's more, you know,
more welcoming.
More welcome, that's right.
Yeah, kind of like, well, before Marquee was there, it was like from Star Series called the Tunnel or something.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, didn't you know that?
No.
Oh, I knew that. I like nostalgia, as we were talking about off air. That's what it was called. It was called the Tunnel.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it was called the Tunnel. Obviously, someone on social media might correct me or something, but yeah, I think maybe they've gone to more of that where they're just allowing more people in. And
well, I think, you know, back when you used to work with them, it was such a premier night. Like if you didn't have thousands of dollars, you weren't going to have fun there. Yeah. You know, like it was so expensive. And I think they've realized a lot of kids, a lot of, you know, people who want to go out and have fun, they didn't really have many venues to go to after COVID. Yeah. So they kind of, I think they've taken advantage of that. They've dropped their entry price. They're getting on more relevant DJs, more relevant entertainment.
More head count, more money.
That's right.
That's how I got back into cars. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. So what I did is I'd worked a job in the city, which is just down the road in a hotel.
Was that on the corner? You working on the corner?
No, I was in a hotel. It was it was a hotel. I was being one of the guys, the chauffeur, like driving a guy and parking their cars down below in one of the city hotels. And then what I would do is I'd run after that shift at 10 p.m. to the city, through the city to the club at Marquee. I would work, I'd get as many headcount people in as possible, and then I'd count my money at the end of the week.
This would be when I was working with you.
I was working with you. So what I would do is I'd hire like you to try, because you were a GJ trying to make it. So I'd try to work out like a hustle like yourself. Try to work out deals of how I could make money in both areas. Yep. And
so I should start sending my invoices to you then, is that right?
And but yeah, I'd do the two things, and yeah, eventually at one point I made $4,000 a weekend.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
So.
It's I guess like you said, the head count, you know, if you can find a way to make money off these people, there's a lot of people going out. Ivy Thursdays, every Thursday they're getting between 2,500 to 4,000 people in the venue. It's a Thursday night. So it's, you know, trying to capture an audience, for me at least, is trying to capture an audience, get them driven to your brand, and go from there, trying to turn it into money.
Yeah. So what's your plan for movement going forward?
So during COVID, I obviously couldn't play live shows. So I was like, all right, let's take a step back. Let's write music for other artists who were performing at the time internationally. But also let's focus on music production for myself. Yeah. So now COVID's pretty much over. I've still been writing music for other people, been writing music for myself, but I haven't been 100% happy with my own music for myself. Yeah. Okay. So it's one of those things when you release music for yourself, you have to be feeling it.
So do you differentiate your music?
Look, it's all still the same genre, but it's like sometimes you make a track and then, you know, it's mad, and then sometimes you make a track and you're like, oh, that was crap. Like, I don't want people to hear that.
Like a lap around the track.
That's right.
You can either get a spot or really shit.
That's right. So, you know, I've made a lot of music that if I'm not happy with it, I'll generally go, I don't want to release that through my brand. I'll sell it. So I'll sell it to someone and then they'll release it. They'll get it signed to a record label and do whatever they want with it. Yeah. So at the moment, right this second, I'm I've got a lot of music that I'm happy with that I'm now pushing out to record labels, getting it signed through to record labels, which again is a whole nother situation because record labels haven't made money through COVID. So now when they're signing new artists or people to their record label, they have to make sure that they're willing to invest in these people. So it's harder than ever to try and get your music signed to record labels, which I've been getting there. Getting music signed, but also now I'm like, all right, well, I need to build my audience back. I need to start performing events. So 2 weeks time, I'm performing at Lunar Electric Music Festival on the main stage, which will be awesome. So it's going to be one of my biggest shows ever.
Yeah, okay.
Following weekend, I'm playing at a club called Tusk in Wollongong, which is probably one of the premier house clubs in Australia. So there's probably only 3 premier house clubs in Australia. Electric Circus in South Australia, I'd say Tusk in Wollongong, and elsewhere in Queensland. So I'm stoked. Like that was a really hard push to get that one. So really happy that they come through with the booking. I think the following weekend I'm in Queensland playing a show. The following weekend I'm playing at Home Nightclub in Sydney. So right now it is performing at the right venues that kind of help my brand go in the direction that I want to. So I could play Cargo Bar, I could play Scary Canary, I could play bars and different clubs, whatever, but are they in line with my brand? Most of them aren't. So it's very tricky to try and, charge an amount that you're happy with that's going to get you through to the next show, that you're not overplaying, that you're not over accessible for other clubs or over accessible to your audience as well. You want to remain exclusive. So when you play a Sydney show, people from all over Sydney come to watch you. Or Wollongong, everyone in Wollongong, the South Coast, will hopefully come to watch my show. Because if I'm playing there every weekend, they'll be like, oh, we'll just catch him next week, So trying to organise that with, release dates for music as well, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. So
where was the venue that made you necessarily take off? Was it Marquee or was it another club?
I'd say Mona Vale Hotel.
Mona Vale Hotel?
Mona Vale Hotel, man.
Wow.
So again, Thursday nights there was uni night. They'd get consistently 2,000 people through the door. Thursday nights, it was just nuts. So every single weekend, they would have headliners like Timmy Trumpet, Uber Jacks, Tiger Lily, Havana Brown, Bag Raiders, Flume. Like, everyone went through that venue. What So Not actually started in that venue. So that venue was great for just meeting so many people. And then when
it seems the Northern Beaches, North Shore was more like the area for DJs to like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like
a lot of artists came from...
To blossom.
That's right. A lot of artists came from the Northern Beaches because they didn't have many, I guess, places to play at other than Mona Vale Hotel. So they'd focus on music production and being an artist. So you can either be a DJ or you can be an artist. And a lot of Northern Beaches people, like What So Not, focused on producing and becoming an artist. So now he can play wherever he wants.
Wasn't it What So Not and Flume together at one point?
That's right.
Were they What So Not?
So that's right. Flume and What So Not used to be called Emo. So together they were called What So Not. Then they had major legal battles and I think they're still going on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Super awkward. Super awkward. Like, because I'm good friends. Well, I used to be good friends with Chris. We used to speak all the time. Who's What So Not. And then Harley as well, who's Flume. It's sometimes, if they're
butting heads, it's creativity. So they were fighting over, technically they were fighting over creativity.
Well, I think they were which way their brand went, but also like a lot to do with money as well. Because the brand What So Not was making a lot of money. And that's kind of all I know. But
do you trademark music or do you copyright? How does it work for you, like as a ghostwriter? How does that all work?
So essentially when I sell the music as a ghostwriter,
does it have PTY Ltd at the bottom of the contract in a way?
That's actually a good question. I need to review my contracts. So essentially when they purchase all the masters, they own everything. Whatever they want to do with it, they will then probably PTY or trademark it. They will probably
so you pretty much create the baseline. Is that what it is? Like, is it like you create the dirt and the seed, and then they do whatever they want with it?
Pending. Sometimes people will come to me and be like, "Oh, like I've got an idea. How do we make this idea into reality?" They'll give me sometimes the sounds, but I don't know how to make it into a track. Or then I'll put it together and actually pump out. There's a finished track. There you go. And then how I sell it will be, whatever we work out. So there's things called split sheets. So depending on like, a percentage, sometimes people will, want to do, they'll keep it in their name, but I'll make a percentage of Spotify plays, iTunes sales, Beatport sales.
Yeah.
So that's pretty rare because generally they just want to buy the whole thing, have complete ownership of it, and just give me a one-off fee, catch you later.
Yeah.
So it's easier for them.
Yeah.
Especially if their record's going to blow up and get 10 to 20 million plays, which is actually really frustrating when I release music under my own name and it gets, a couple thousand plays, and then I've written music for other people and it's getting 10, 20 million plays because they're a massive artist. Yeah, sometimes it's like, it gets you a bit like, that track was crap compared to mine, but just because of who they are, it blows up.
Yeah. Do you get frustrated? Like, obviously you get frustrated with it, but you like see it as like that's still a goal, because, or do you, or are you still wanting to eventually go out of the ghostwriting thing to create? Like, have you spoken to managers and stuff like that about that?
So I'm my own manager. So I don't have any management, and at the moment I don't have any booking agents. So everything is me.
Yeah.
Currently trying to land a booking agent. I won't say who it is, but they're essentially, they control the music industry at the moment in Australia. But it's very.
Does Ministry of Sound, do they kind of like, do they own everything in a way? Like, are they the ones?
Tomorrow Music. Tomorrow Music are kind of the big umbrella.
Yeah.
And then Ministry of Sound tap into them. There's like so many things that branch off Tomorrow Music. So it's funny you mentioned that. Tomorrow Music is the booking agent.
And does Tomorrow Music own Tomorrowland?
No, they don't.
Thing?
That's another thing. I wish. I
thought that was their own little gig that they had over in Europe.
No, like that's actually the ultimate goal is headline set at Tomorrowland.
Yeah, in Europe.
In Europe, yeah.
Yeah, right.
So EDC as well, like EDC Vegas, I think is this coming weekend. There's actually a lot of things happening. So I've been writing music for people overseas in the States. And my missus was like, "Oh, like, what do you want to do this year for your birthday?" Like, and I was like, "Oh, whatever, I don't really care."
You're like me.
Yeah, whatever. Like, I'm getting old now. Yeah. So she was like, I want to take you to the States for your birthday. So she's planning to take me to the States for my birthday in August.
Yeah.
It just so happens, literally 2 days ago, guys that I've been writing music for, they have, can't really name names, but I can say who they've been signed to. So I helped them produce a track.
Yep.
They got that track signed to John Summit.
Yep. John
Summit is massive house producer. Like, he owns one of the biggest record labels in the world. They hit me up and they're like, when's your next show in Chicago? And I'm like, I'm from Australia. Don't you remember? And they're like, when are you coming over here? So I was like, actually, for my birthday in August, I might be over there.
Yeah.
And they said, look, send us through your press kit, and we'll make sure it gets into the right hands, and we'll make sure you have shows when you come over to the States in August.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to be doing when I go over for my holiday, my chilled birthday holiday. I'll probably end up playing shows over.
So it's kind of like, in a way, I've had guys show me their press kits for car racing. It's kind of like that, but for DJing. Is that what it is? That's
right. It's pretty much your whole resume of, I guess, the shows you've played, upcoming shows, music that you've released as well. It's just a pure resume.
Do you bring in like girls and guys' voices for certain tracks, or is that just on a board? So
no, it can be anything. So you can either get approached by singers and be like, "Hey, I want to make a track," or I'll be in the studio sometime and I'll be like, "I need a chick's voice on this track," and then I'll think of people who I know in my network that it would suit. If I don't know anyone, I'll then reach out either to other artists and say, "Hey, do you know anyone? Like, I need a girl's voice that would suit this track, something like this. Here's a reference track," and then you kind of try and scout a singer.
For it. Yeah, okay. Is it on SoundCloud that you scout for them, or anywhere?
You can do it anywhere, man. Spotify. I love Spotify because you get some major artists working with so you get a lot of singers who are working with major artists. So I've actually just reached out to a girl. She's a Sydney chick. She had a track with Steve Aoki.
Yeah, okay.
And next month I'm actually writing a track with her. So
yeah, right.
That'll be cool.
And it's in your own studio, is it, that you do?
That's exactly
music?
Right. Yeah.
Mad.
I do a lot of touring to work in other people's studios. But I've got a great studio at home in a 2-bedroom apartment in Hunters Hill.
Yeah. Originally before you were living in Mean Crows.
That's right.
I had no idea.
I can't believe that. Crowy Hotel, man. I used to play there.
Right. Yeah. I can't believe that. I was living there for ages. Never asked. Never just. We're in our own little land, I guess.
Well, now you know where I live.
Yeah.
And, but I also hire out my studio space as well. So I get artists coming over and hiring out my studio.
Yep.
I've got the latest DJ equipment in there as well. So a lot of music producers, they focus on music production. A lot of DJs will focus on DJ stuff.
Yeah.
So Pioneer have just released brand new DJ equipment, super expensive. But I was like, you know what? If I'm going to be doing major shows now, I want to have the latest stuff so I can really upskill. Because I do claim, and I'm happy to say it, that I claim to be one of the most technical DJs in the world.
Yeah.
So the things that I do on the decks, you know, there's probably only 2 or 3 other DJs that I can say in Australia that can do those things. So if I want to be claiming that, I got to have decks ready to go in my studio, so I'm always staying hot. It's just like, you know, doing a hot lap in cars. You know, if you've had a long period of time off, you know, sometimes you might get in the car and it feels really quick. So it's the same as DJing. It's your brain, your ability to think ahead allows you to be technical. So
you got to be consistent and constant.
That's right.
With the DJing and stuff.
That's right.
I got to ask about what we were talking about a while ago, the whole tugboat thing. How did that all happen? Like, that's an interesting industry in itself.
It really is. So my uncle, he is part owners in one of the tugging companies in Sydney Harbour and Botany as well.
Yeah, okay.
So they bring in, you know, cruise ships, tankers, like cargo ships, do a lot of barge movements as well. All the barges here at the fish markets, they're pretty much running.
Yeah, okay.
So I was casual with them for 6 years, full time with them for 3 years.
Yeah.
So doing like, you know, deckhand, engineer, master, things like that.
Were you on the boats themselves or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I did both, like on the boats, you know.
Even drive them as well?
Yeah. Yeah. That was cool. Like, you know, when you got, you know, a $20 million tug under your control, like it's pretty cool. And the things they can do is very incredible.
Yeah.
But you know, they're slow, mate. Like I'm not about slow shit.
Does the like the police force with their boats come up to you to see if anything sus is going on? Does that happen, or is that just from movies?
No, they do. They do. Like, honestly, I've probably been boarded in, let's say, 8 years of working there, probably 3 times.
Yeah.
Once on New Year's, I was working on the water for doing the firework barges. Yeah. So we do that as well. We're contracted for that.
Yep.
I say we. I work casually there still. Yeah, you know, if there's a cool
every now
shift,
and then you're on.
If there's a cool shift, it doesn't even feel like work, man. You'll go get a ship to bring it in, and it's like, oh, mad. Like, you know, thanks for the grand. You know, like it's good, but it's just something different, man. And it's an evolving kind of industry that something's always happening. Everything can kill you. Like, everything is just dangerous, but it's exciting. It is a good job. Yeah.
It's a high risk job.
High risk job,
but high paying.
Yes. Yeah. Like, you know, the guys full time, they're making a killing.
Yeah. So. You got to tell me about your BMW.
So when I left there, so after COVID or during COVID, my hours got reduced a lot working on the water. You know, no OT. So there was no cargo ships, no cruise ships coming over. So I was like, you know what? I need a bit of a break. I've been here for a long time. I need to start focusing on music as well. And when that roster was 17 days on, optional 2 days off.
Okay.
So I was burnt out.
Yeah.
I got offered a job to work for BMW Australia as a product specialist.
Yeah.
So they found out that, you know, I had a bit of a driving career. I was a good driver, so they got me to demonstrate a lot of their products as well. So if they had some high profile customers coming in, I would, you know, essentially demo the car, most of the M cars. And mate, I actually got a really funny story.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say what dealership I was working for.
Yeah.
But
blank dealership.
Yeah. Blank BMW dealership.
Yeah.
They just got the brand new M3, M4 in Australia.
Yeah.
They had one was delivered to Parramatta, one was delivered to
blank.
Oh my God. Canterbury.
Yeah, okay.
And another one somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I was driving one of these M3s and
just test driving on the road.
Test driving, and if customers wanted to come in, I'd take them for a spin, tell them how to drive it correctly. Is that a weapon of a car, man? Like, honestly, the only car that could outperform it off the top of my head on the street would be, like, you know, your GT3.
Yeah.
Like, they're really, really good. But anyway, we had a BMW, I think it's an E63 race car that was owned by someone very, very rich, and it was actually on display. So I think it was like a 2004, 2005 model.
Yeah.
Which he had, you know, red rope around it. We had $800,000, $900,000 cars in a dealership. This thing had the red rope around it. It was, worth a lot.
Yeah, okay.
So the guy who owned it was very wealthy, but he just literally wanted to keep it there as a showcase.
Yeah.
We had to move it one day, and just so happened that someone had lost the key.
Yeah.
Now, that the key's worth a lot, especially in a collector's car like that, collector's race car.
Yeah.
So the manager had to call up this guy and say,
we've lost the key.
We've lost the key. We need to move this car because we've got more stock coming in. We need to shuffle the showroom. This guy was furious. Like, he was so angry, which I understand, but he came to the dealership and he was a dick. Like, he was really rude to everyone, even like the girls working there. Like, he was just really rude to everyone. He's like, get me an effing car, like just do this, get that, like blah, blah, blah. So this car actually wasn't registered because it's some type of special race car. It's like had like semi-slicks, but they're closer to slicks as well. It was nuts. So he had to borrow. He was like, I don't want my car there anymore. I'm getting it out of there. So this dealership had to lend him the dealership plates to go on the car to get it transported.
Yeah.
These dealership plates are insured for a couple $1 million because essentially any fines that you do, whatever, it'll hit the...
Yeah, and go back to them.
That's right.
Oh, no, I see where this is going.
Okay. So we're saying, like, we had to sign him out with the plates.
Yeah.
And they're like, where are you taking it? Because we've got to get the plates back. We have to send someone with you to make sure that the plates come back to the dealership. And he goes, I'll send them back whenever. And they're like, no, it doesn't leave our site.
Yeah.
So I then got contacted. I didn't really know what was happening. I kind of just got filled in as it was going on. The dealer principal came down and he goes, mate, you need to make sure that those plates don't leave your site.
Yeah.
And then when you get to his house, take them off, literally inspect them, put them in the car, bring them back to the dealership. And I could just see how this was playing out. I'm like watching this guy super agitated, how he was driving even the car.
A few snorts of coke.
Oh, mate, it looked like it. He was just revved up. He was, even how he was getting his car out of the dealership, I was like, and he kept on saying, like, I'll borrow the plates for a couple of days.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to drive his car on the road. It's unregistered, so I could see.
And the keys have been found now, haven't they?
No, he brought the spare set of keys in.
Spare set. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so he's come in, he's fuming. He wanted to drive this car on the road for a couple of days, but we're saying, no, it goes to your house, we take the plates. They're too valuable.
The company owns
That's
them.
right.
Yeah.
You could do whatever with these plates. You could rob a shop and, rob a bank, and we're going to get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
So dealer principal was like, mate, don't let these plates out of your site. I just happened to have that job for me. I could take pretty much any car I wanted home. Yeah. I just so happened to have the M3 in my possession at the time, which I was lucky. I had to follow this guy back to his house and I didn't get given his address. Him wanting to keep the plates for a couple of days, he was trying to lose me through traffic.
Yeah.
So me going,
dude, a race car.
This isn't happening, mate. This isn't happening. So literally we're coming along like the M5, through traffic, like he's proper trying to get rid of me.
Zigzagging and then speeding up and zigzagging.
Like if I had any other car, I would have been in trouble.
Yeah.
Like he's hitting gaps in cars, hitting gaps in traffic along the human stuff. Doing he's going quick.
Yeah.
Like, let's say Eastern Creek top speed.
Yeah, right, on the highway.
On the highway.
Oh wow. I'm surprised any cops didn't pull him over.
I was like, what do I do?
Yeah.
I didn't have time to call the boss to tell him what was happening.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? They told me don't let them out of your sight. So I'm doing what I am doing.
Yeah.
So literally I'm just on his ass going through everything. And I'm like,
this going, how the fuck's he
that's
keeping
right.
up?
Literally. So I'm pissing myself off and going, you're not getting rid of me. Like,
just clicking gears and whatnot. Yeah.
Anyway, he's pulled into a servo and he's like, honestly, actually he was pissed off. He was like, honestly, I tried to lose you. He's like, who are you, mate? Like, who are you? Like, why couldn't I lose you? And I'm like, mate, I've been racing cars for like my whole life, man. Like, do you want me to coach you? Yeah. So, like after that, like, he filled the car up with fuel and he was all right. But man, it was just a bit of a funny story that he was just wanted to keep those plates for a while, I left them. I left BMW September last year to go full-time music just before I went up to Queensland and do the 2 weeks quarantine. So
I've got to go back to the DJing stuff. Who's the best, like bar Bombs Away, who's the best couple of artists that you are still mates with and who want to work with, like, consistently? Because obviously you get irritated with some.
Man, there's so many. Like, I'm lucky enough that pretty much anyone who are in my circle at the moment, they're all quality people.
Tiger Lily seems pretty chill on her social media.
She's cool. She's really cool.
Yeah.
She's very commercial, you know. She's very commercial. She's got different direction, you know. Like, I don't know really what her direction is.
Yeah.
But
apparently she uses wigs now.
Yeah.
As to keep her persona going.
That's right. Yeah.
My girlfriend told me that.
Honestly, it took me for a while. I'm like, I swear she was blonde last time I saw her.
Yeah,
like,
it put me off. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yesterday, her hair bounce back is really quick. But no, like, I don't know what she's up to, but man, like, you know, people that I've been in contact with, you know, like Calvin Harris, you know, Skrillex, you know, literally the biggest artists in the world. So they're the people that I want to kind of try and get in their circles a bit more, you know, like at the moment, I'm just kind of here floating around. I'm on their radar slightly, but I'm not, they don't know me really well. So if I could, that's my goal, is to kind of, you know, make more music, do bigger shows, appear on their radar more, and then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of Australian artists, you know, in the house scene that are amazing, like Sydney artist Low 99, he used to be Tom Piper. You might remember him.
I remember Tom Piper.
Yep. So he's Low 99 now.
Yeah.
You know, he's one of, you know, the biggest artists in Australia at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, he's on Triple J all the time. Played Splendor in the Grass. He's playing Valley Vibes this weekend up in Queensland, which
Shane Eccleton and Shane and those guys, they changed their name, didn't they? Front to back, or one's gone. Ben left. Oh, yeah. So
what's
happened there?
Shane now, actually, man, we chat weekly.
Yeah, okay.
So Shane now,
hopefully he watches this.
He's Saint Paris.
Yep.
Is his new artist name?
Yep.
Front to back is kind of gone.
Yeah. Okay.
So
why do you guys do that? Like, why do you? Is it just like an evolving thing, or you just go like that's like
it's a different
nostalgic thing?
It's a different persona. So it's like generally when you're an artist, you know, like could you imagine if Nicki Minaj started dropping like drum and bass? It just would be like what? Yeah. All of her following would be like, no, we like the old Nicki, you know?
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't make sense. So if we have another movement, like my brand is about house music, tech house, you know, bass house, like, you know, that kind of feel. So if we have another style of music that we want to release, produce, or play under, it's easier to rebrand and play under that name because it's different.
Yeah.
There's a guy called Tom Budden. He's actually in the top 100 producers of Australia, top 100 producers in the world. His stage name is Tom Budden.
Yeah.
But he's also been making hardstyle as well under BDN.
Yeah.
So it's just another persona.
Right. What do you think about like Machine Gun Kelly? He's like obviously a big marquee guy, but as you're saying about changing genres, do you reckon for me as a fan, it kind of tarnishes his image because he's not, do you know what I mean? Like he's a bit of a joke because people see him as a bit of a joke because he's done that so many times.
It's hard. Like
so should have he changed his names in a way, or is he too big to get?
I look at oh no, I just forgot his name. It's one of those things like if you don't think, it's kind of all about marketing. If you've got the marketing resources to promote that new brand and make money, then yeah, go for it. But if you don't have the marketing resources to kind of do that, you're pretty much starting at ground level. Yeah. You know, you might be able to use some contacts, but you might throw a show and no one will come. Yeah. If they knew that you were connected to, let's say if he changed his name, Machine Gun Kelly, people are like, oh, that's his new persona, let's go. Yeah. So it's one of those things, it's a risk. You know, a lot of people do. Like, you know, Alice in Wonderland, she produces under artist names as well. Yeah. So it's just how you want to market yourself.
Yeah. Go from there, really. Yeah. Well, dude, really appreciate that you came on the podcast. Hey,
man, thank you heaps for having me. It's been a lot of fun, and now you know where I live. You know, you are.
Well, now you know where I live.
That's right.
It's so weird that that's actually come to the whole thing. But before we go, I've got to ask you a few questions. What was your favorite kart track growing up as a kid? First,
what
was your favorite go-kart track?
Oran
favorite
Park.
race?
It's funny. I got two.
So you got memories. We'll go through a few nostalgic memories.
Puckapunyal and Bolivar as well in South Australia.
Yeah.
Pucka in Victoria, but Oran Park as well because it was Oran Park. Like just going over the bridge, coming down, like that was just epic.
Yeah.
You stuff them.
What about your favourite go-kart chassis?
Favorite chassis?
Is there a Pacific chassis that you remember? Like for me, I'll give you an example. I had Christian Lindblom had a second-hand Top Kart Viper. And I raced it in Clubman Light.
Okay.
Everyone just thought, oh, why is he turning up with this kart? And I was like, and then I did Clubman Pro and I qualified top 5 with it because Carl Lindblom had set it up. After that was like, that was the go-kart for me. Yeah, that was it.
Man, I really liked the CRG Black Diamond.
Okay.
Yeah, like we made that work. That was good chassis.
Why the number 45 and 91? And why the change to 91?
45 was because Jason Heinrich was 45. So when I was in juniors, it only made sense that I looked up to him and he was winning absolutely everything. It just looked cool when we're in the marquee together and he's 45 and I'm 45 and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, but 91, it was 2 power numbers. So 9 is the biggest number. Number 1 is number 1. So 91.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Other questions are, what was your biggest, like, obviously I've spoken about DJing, but what was one of your main moments that you remember as a kid going through the DJ scene? Like, what are your main like type of nostalgic moment for you and a special night? Did anyone come up to you or anything, you know?
Man, there's one that's about to happen and I've put a lot of pressure on this. So Future Music Festival 2011 or 2012, I watched a set at that festival, Pendulum. Now, in 2 weeks' time, I'm on the same stage as them.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to meet them for the first time. So it's been, 10 years in the making. So I'm hoping that they live up to my expectations because that set that I watched was actually the best set I've ever seen in my life. So now I'm playing on the same stage as them in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And another question, which I totally forgot to answer ages ago, we'll give you.
Yep.
How did you meet your girlfriend, Courtney? How did that all come about? Because that was just... Are you going to actually...
So I'm going to tell you the truth.
Okay, you can tell me the truth. That's perfect.
So
I love the truth.
She's going to kill me because she tells her parents differently.
Okay, that's all right.
They can all blame me. It's fine.
So we actually met on Tinder.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, all right.
Yep.
Fair enough. It's a fair question, that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she tells her parents that we met at a club.
Yeah.
But essentially, we met on Tinder. Like I literally got it for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was just bored. And I matched with her and I was like, matching with a whole bunch of people and the conversations I was having with these people were crazy. Like this chick had a son. Yeah. This chick had a son.
I love these wild stories.
And she's like, hey, he's not the only one that's going to be calling you daddy. I was like, oh
no.
Okay, like heaps of shit like that. And then I matched with my missus, and she was actually really nice. I'm like, what's this girl doing on Tinder? So then I was like just sussing her out.
Yeah.
And then
I was like, is this a fake account or something?
Yeah. Like this is a dude for sure. I eventually got a number. I got a number pretty much straight away because I was like, I've got to call her to see what's going on. So I called her and she was a real person. And I was like, you know what, this is too good to miss up. So like I literally had Tinder for 40 minutes.
Was this when you were living in Crow's Nest or somewhere else?
Yeah, I was actually in Botany.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Was she close by though?
She was house sitting for her friend in Sydney. So she's originally from the south. Oh, sorry. She's originally from Central Coast.
Yep.
And she was in Sydney, just house sitting, and similar thing. She was just bored, like got Tinder for a bit of a joke, and then met me, the bigger joke.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. And any obviously we talked about it before, but is there Jason Heinrich? Is there any other drivers, not even just in karting ranks, that you looked up to during your racing days?
Michael Schumacher, for sure. Yeah, like, when when they use onboard footage for race car drivers all the time, and sometimes you just vibe with the way that they're driving, and there's no one that I see that I vibe with. Like when it's on board and I'm watching how they change gears or how they're braking, how they're accelerating, when they turn, like just everything. It was literally only Michael, and
he could drive any car on rails though. So I totally respect why you're saying that.
Yeah, it was literally him, and I'll say Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
They're the two drivers that when it's on board, it makes sense to me. When I watch other people, I get nauseous. I almost get seasick because it doesn't feel right to me.
Yeah.
It's funny.
It's funny you say that because I actually get more nervous hopping into a go-kart than a race car.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know why. I think it brings like that kid moment,
Man,
when you you put the cart on the grid and everyone's like so tense as a kid.
Well, I was doing a couple laps for a time attack team a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh, this is good. And then jumped into a kart, and it was so much more physically exhausting in the kart than I was in the time attack car.
Yeah, right. Dude, they, as you said ages ago, they bust your ribs.
Oh,
like they just don't stop. They're just it doesn't have any. just flat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just
when's
hard.
your next race, by the way?
In August, so state championship for Formula Ford, and it's bloody tight at the moment. There's actually like 3 points in it in my championship. So
well, hopefully I'm not in the States by then.
Yeah, actually, maybe you should back, or even you see the end of the year.
Yeah,
the last round for me. Obviously, you don't keep up with that state stuff, but our state championship has a double round thing, like a winner take all type of thing, and that's in like October. So if you did want to come out, you can come to that one.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm definitely keen. You know,
I was a bit off my game last weekend because at Wakefield Park it was a bit wet, and I couldn't just get the gist of the track because Wakefield Park's a bit like, as you said, with Wollongong. It's getting degrading and it hasn't a resurface anywhere, and so I struggled there. But I regathered myself and just finished the weekend fourth. I just had to accept it.
That's all you got to do.
Yeah, and now now there's 3 points in the championship, but it's pretty close.
How many points for a win?
30, and then you get 1 point for fastest lap and 1 point for pole position. So it's literally like it's kind of turning into a drive to survive.
It is, man. It's consistency, is it?
It is, like, and the interesting thing is normally in my class I'm versing guys more my age, but I'm actually versing 2 kids.
Okay.
And one's like a total gun.
Yeah.
Like he's raced karts, and I've raced his dad in Formula Ford. Okay. He's like the Verstappen of the field.
Okay. Yeah.
And then there's Max Mason, who's the other kid, and he's kind of like trying to make a career, obviously, in car racing too. And then there's me, who does it for fun.
Yes.
But now I'm a bit like you. I'd like it I do Formula Ford. Most people don't know. I do that for the challenge side of it more so, just because it keeps me sharp.
They're tricky to drive, man. Like it was how they work on the track is like, if you can drive one of those quick, you can drive anything quick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I love racing them.
Yeah.
They're just a fun car. Is there any, like, for you, were you very close to, like, even doing Formula Ford or Aussie race cars at one point, or not really?
There was heaps, man. Like, honestly, we always just had a better offer in karting. And at the same time, when, like, you know, mum and dad's business was, whether, like, you know, because they divorced, it was just taking opportunities where we could. And the opportunities that CRG gave me was able to keep me in the motorsport industry. So, you know, kind of got to the point where, and I was too naive, honestly. Like, meaning, Dad was always like, you should be out there getting sponsorship and blah blah blah, and I was always like, I'm good enough. People will realize that I'm good enough. Yeah,
a lot of kids actually do that, which is surprising.
Man.
They rely on their talent, which is fair enough, but
no, and honestly, anyone
you gotta have a knack for both. Really,
anyone listening to this it's my biggest regret. You know, is I didn't fight for sponsorship. And same in music as well. You know, I didn't fight for things that I wanted. I just assumed, hey, which I'm, you know, one of the best technical DJs in the world, my skills should take me to marquee. That's how I met you, man. I was like, you know, I want to set here. I'm better than everyone here. Yeah. Like, you know, but it doesn't work like that. You know, it doesn't work. It goes with, you know, who you know, marketing. How much business can you bring to the club, or how much business can you bring to the race team?
Yeah.
So I guess anyone listening to this that, you know, is young, coming up, you know, put in effort to, I guess, bring money to the team, bring money to who you want to be with.
Yeah, you got to have talent and money.
Definitely.
Unfortunately, motorsport. And it sounds like in music too.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Dude, I'm so pumped that you actually got to tell me about like how the whole music scene works and racing and stuff. And it's been really good to see you, dude.
Yeah, man. Thank you again.
Yeah, no worries.